Hello, everybody. So, last week I uploaded my first video to this channel and it was about smart meters. I will leave a link in the description for the benefit of anybody that wants to watch it. So, today, the second video, we're going to be talking about opening readings. We're going to be going into why they are important and what can be done if the opening readings weren't taken. Also, kind of touching on kind of how the energy companies should be dealing with this topic correctly. So, when a consumer moves into or takes over the liability for a property, it's important to make sure that the opening readings are taken on the liability start date. On top of this, I would also recommend that a picture of these readings are taken just in case anyone ever disputes if these readings are correct or not further down the line. Now, if things are done correctly in the energy company's eyes, then the readings given by both parties, now this is the old liability holder and the new liability holder, on the change of liability date, or also known as a change of tenancy date, these readings should match. So the person whose liability is coming to an end, their final reading should be the same as the new person that's taken over. Now they might not be exactly the same. There might be a bit of a difference, as the readings may have been given at different times in the day, but they should be relatively similar. Now, any gaps in between the readings, there will be a loss to the energy company. However, you tend to find that it'll be most likely that the energy companies will be okay with losing out on a small amount of units. As a result of this, it's just as long as it isn't like a lot of units. So, taking the opening reading. So this is important, is that energy companies may estimate the opening readings, as the last person that was liable may not have given a final reading, or the energy company has not used this reading to start the liability holder's billing period for whatever reason. So this could mean that an estimate has been created, and this estimate could be lower, resulting in the new liability holder being charged for more units than they're actually using. So for example, like say the reading on your meter is 500 when you've moved in, that energy company might not have used 500. If that reading's not been passed across to them, they would have used an estimate. For all we know, they could have used an estimate of 250, meaning you're paying for an extra 250 units than you should actually be paying for. So, like with taking a photo that I mentioned earlier, the reason that I recommend this is the energy company could question the opening reading at any point. This could be because the person that was liable before may have given a completely different change of liability reading to what the new liability holder has been given. So generally taking a picture of the opening reading is all about kind of going down the better safe than sorry approach, and just to make sure there isn't kind of any sort of disputes or anything further down the line. So one thing that I have noticed is that a lot of consumers tell their energy company that the property was empty before they took it over, therefore thinking that there is no person who can give readings whilst the property was lying empty. This isn't the case. Even when a property is lying empty, there will always be someone liable for the energy bills. So this could be the property owner, or a tenant, or even a business that owns the building or the property. And they would be expected to give their opening and closing readings so that their own bills are correct. This is in the same way that they would be expected to maintain the property that they own or are liable for, one way or another, even if it's lying empty. So you may have noticed that I use the term liability holder a lot in this video. Well, there's a reason for this. I find that using the term occupier doesn't really work purely for the fact that a property may be lying empty. Therefore, it isn't necessarily always being occupied. Using the term liability holder makes more sense for this reason. So, I mean, although a lot of companies use the term occupier, if they don't know the name of the person that they are reaching out to, I think it makes more sense to go with the term liability holder, as it avoids confusion and makes it more clear about who we are referring to. So having covered all that, I would now like to talk about what consumers should do if they did not take their opening reading, or if the opening reading is wrong for whatever reason. So if there's no record of what the correct opening reading should be, then you can ask your energy company to change your opening reading through something that's called the deemed read process, also known as an agreed read. So to go into a bit more detail about what this is, a deemed read, or just DR for short, requires the consumer to take two readings so many days apart, if not already done so. The amount of days between these readings don't really matter, but I'd say about anywhere between 7 and 14 days would be about right. So what this would do is this would show how many units the household is using on average every day. With this information, the energy company will go back to the start to ensure that the opening reading on the account has been changed to reflect the average daily usage for every day of the liability term. So if going down this route, please be aware that doing this in the winter would show a higher daily usage than doing this in the summertime. Therefore, if possible, in order for this to go in your favour as a consumer, it would be best to do this in the summer months if you're able to do so, just to take the temperature into account. I mean, you're going to use a lot more units in the winter as your daily usage as you would in the summer. So if we are able to do this, we're doing this in the summertime. Now, although it is unlikely, please just be aware that the energy company may have an issue with this, and there's always a possibility that they might not want to go down this road and insist on calculating things differently. I think that would be unlikely, but it's just in case. But yeah, try and do this in the warmer months rather than the winter months if you can, just so that things are going in the favour of the consumer. Just with like the amount of units in between those readings as well. It's always an idea to kind of try and use less units. Like say if you're taking two readings 7 days apart, it's always an idea just to maybe use that week to try and use less units than you normally would. But at the same time, just make it look like believable as well. So another thing to note with deemed reads is that if this is carried out, it's important to mention that it may also change the final read for the person that was liable before. So as I mentioned previously, some energy companies may do this, some may not. So the main reason for adding this information into the video is this explains why you may receive an altered final balance a long time after your liability has ended. I mean, I've seen examples of final bills being recalculated and then being sent out years after a person is like moved out of their house, or in other words, their liability came to an end. I think I've seen it like as much as 3-4 3, 4, maybe even as much as 5 years later. So yeah, just be aware of this as well. So this takes me nicely on to explaining what happens when bills become finalised. So there is a belief that once someone's period of liability ends and a final bill has been paid, then the account closes down. This isn't the case. So in short, an account never closes down within the energy industry. So the details always remain in the energy company's system. This is just in case either the opening or final read ever changes because a deemed read has been carried out by another liability holder of the property. Another thing that I've noticed is a lot of people get confused between this and a right to erasure. So a right to erasure applies to the contact details only that the energy company holds about the consumer. So this is things like your phone number, email address, forwarding address, these kind of things. Anything that's like personal to the consumer. But the account itself that is linked to the site address, this will never close. It'll always remain there with the consumer's name on it. Just in case the readings ever change. So that's it, folks. I hope this helps in one way or another. I've also done a video on smart meters on the channel. So if anyone has any input, then feel free to chat away in the comments. But as always, keep it friendly. If you can like and subscribe, then that would be most appreciated, as it doesn't only help me out, but it also helps get this information to other viewers who may also benefit from this information. So until next time, folks, thanks very much for watching, and take it easy.